Hey guys, welcome back to Seller Sessions, a full panel lineup today. We're going to be talking about main images. Welcome to the show, Ash Thompson, John Hefter, Brandon Young. Marius is returned back to the show. We done a show with him a few weeks ago on a technical level of main images and lighting, etc., etc. So you can go back and look at the show there. Brandon wants to make an announcement. He was about to send out a press release. He's going to join for a couple of minutes and then going to hand it over to Anthony. Brandon, do you just want to let people quickly know?
Danny, I appreciate this so much. So we've been really doubling down and focusing on growing the team at Data Dive. We have 27 on the team now, 24 on the just the dev side. And I was very fortunate enough to make a hire in the business development side. So Anthony Cofrancesco, who was working with PickFu and has years of experience in the e-commerce space and working with large partners and partners on behalf of them, has joined Data Dive and joined the Data Dive team. This is the first time we're telling anyone publicly, and I appreciate you allowing us to do that. But because the subject of this podcast and this episode was about main images, and this is what he did for over 2 years at PickFu, I figured it would be an awesome opportunity for him to come on instead of me. And his expertise there is obviously much better. And I know John is a fan of PickFu, has used it many times at Thrasio. So I think that his expertise is going to be much better served for everybody at the firm. But thank you for allowing me to announce it. Anthony, great to see you. Good to see everybody. And I'll be on soon again, I'm sure.
Cool. All right, brother. Thank you. Okay, so let's start with John. I want to start with you. The idea of this, look, everyone talks about image optimization and stuff like that. Well, but the reason I brought on the likes of you, Ash, where's he gone? Oh, there it is. The likes of you and Ash onto the show because of the tremendous scale that you work with. Obviously, Ash doing 9 figures. You've got like at Thrasio, I think over 100 brands or so. And I just want to kind of get an understanding of how excessive have you gone with images? Like starting with you, John, have you like blown, I don't know, 40, 30 grand just trying to get an image right? Is there some stories that you can share with us?
Well, I mean, I think it really depends. And it's certainly on a case by case basis. Some things will, you'll only be able to optimize to a point. So if I was selling a single spatula without a packaging attached to it, I'm probably limited as to what my main image optimization could be. However, if I have a product where the packaging itself becomes a key part of the main image presentation, that's when we'll have a tendency to go and spend a lot of money to really do what we all want to do, which is get that thumb stopping experience and having people pause at your listing. So what I might do in that case is, beyond the main listing image, is make sure my packaging is differentiated enough, both from like a physical shape perspective and then also a color set. So what I generally like to do as well is look at whatever optimizations I'm trying to make against my use a tool like PickFu to compare my old stuff versus my new stuff. Look at it in that isolated environment. But then also look at my competition, and then at the grand perspective in the very back end is look at the entire vertical itself to see, does my thing stand out where it should?
And going back to the original question, how much of the excessive amount of money you've allocated for one image, for instance, a story behind that?
Yeah, I mean, we've definitely spent north of $5,000 for an image in the past before. I think we've become a lot better, or Thrasio has become a lot better at now at being more efficient and using things like renders and finding ways to do it more cost effectively than we have in the past.
Cool. Ash, I know that you're very analytical. People know you for that. And would you say you've gone to extreme lengths with images before and got sucked into the vortex?
Extreme lengths in kind of in terms of testing, right? So we'll go through 4, 5, 6 different images until we get one that wins. But kind of a bit like John said, I don't think you need to break the bank. So we've never spent like $5,000, for an example, on a profile picture. we probably spent, I don't know, maybe 1,000 doing multiple iterations, but ultimately you just need to test until you win. I think if you have someone that has a good eye for design on the team, that you should be able to do that relatively quickly. I think it's one of the areas that there's still, people underestimate the power of the main image, and I think a lot of people are still pretty poor at doing a main image. So it is a good area where you can win. Yeah.
Anthony, obviously going back to your days at PickFu, congratulations for your transfer across to Data Dive. Some of the extreme examples that you've seen, obviously people do vigorous testing, obviously under, TOS, GDPR, if you're in Europe, etc. Obviously we're not sharing names or anything, but you must see on the back end some huge amount of testing and the amount of people are spending in order to get a main image right.
Yeah, I guess what I'll say is that, when it comes to spending, main image, you're already pretty limited in terms of what you can do. So there's really just not that much that you can even do, right? That you can even experiment. So budgets for main image optimization, kind of like Ashley's saying, it's like you're just trying different things, throwing things to the wall and seeing what's sticking. If there's one thing I'll say about main images, it's a lot of the times we try things that just don't work, and you might test it and you put it up, and it's a very small or marginal increase, if anything, into the conversion rate. So it's really just about throwing different things to the wall and see what sticks. The other thing that I'll say is that I used to spend a lot of the time making small changes, like small changes to like the orientation of the products, or just adding in a little decal. And I think those things used to work a lot better than they do now. But now, unless you're actually making something meaningful, like John is saying, that's going to click and be a really good eye catcher, it's going to be a significant part of the main image, or it's helping someone actually give some indication of like they're searching for a time of the year, there's a new keyword, and now you add a new element into the main image that's going to reinforce that. Unless it's something concrete, it's really small work over a long period of time to get any kind of gains, is what I've seen.
Yeah, we'll go into lifestyle images and stuff after. I just thought we'd start with the main image and then we'll work through the various different packs. Marius, give me some examples of clients that you've worked with. In terms of main image, where they've pushed and pushed and pushed, down the lighting and stuff. What are some of the extreme levels that you've seen clients go to?
I've done quite a few reviews for some clients. Like today, I'm going to be shooting a product for a client who already sells about $300,000 a month in profit. He's making $300,000 a profit for one product a month, right? So obviously, the main image is really important. And when I'm looking at a main image, I'm looking at a pattern disruption, as with everything in marketing, right? Back in 2017, I used to sell a scratch map. And I remember everyone had the same thumbnail, everyone had the same map. And to make it a little bit different, I actually hired someone to design a map, to have a unique design. And I don't know if it's possible anymore on Amazon to do that. But on my tube, I actually had a text printed on the packaging, right? That said, best gift for travelers. And I wanted to incorporate that, as we can't have any text on the main image, but that was part of the packaging. And it went really, really well as the main image.
Yeah, cool. All right, go back around the room again. Let's get into lifestyle images. John, anything you want to share there where, you've hired locations, and is there things where you've gone and really pushed the boat out, and why?
Yeah, we certainly have on that side of the table, particularly if the product is doing a velocity that merits such an investment. I think everyone has the same behavior pattern on Amazon when they're looking to purchase a product. They're making a series of binary decisions. Do I trust this thing or not? Yes or no? And what you want to do is make sure they get as many yeses as possible to drive them to a higher conversion rate. So there's something to be said about having a product, when appropriate, in a really well done lifestyle scenario with the background and the proper models, and where basically everyone's making the same assessment. This is likely not a total piece of crap from China, right? That's and they really get a sense of belief that this is a real brand. That I think the real test is like they feel like it's existed out in the world for a long period of time, and they just now, as a customer, happen to stumble upon it for the first time. So for me, if you can get that aesthetic tied together, you can see a real impact on conversion rate. Does it always work? No. Right. But when it does work, we've seen with the proper packaging and then the improved lifestyle stuff, we've seen conversion rates double in the past.
Yeah. Ash, your take, lifestyle images.
Yeah, I think like John said, lifestyle, you can definitely invest a lot more money into it. I think you should always have a look at how much money the product's going to generate, the one that you're selling. And so, for example, if you're doing a large product like we've done before, like luxury bed sheets, right? So we essentially booked out an Airbnb, which was a real luxurious Airbnb with amazing views. And we had like a couple of models, right, that would come and basically like there for the shoot as well. So we had some great pictures, lifestyle pictures that we had. But all in all, I mean, to rent that out, I don't know, all in all, it was less than, probably looking at about $5,000 total, I would say, there for those shots. And then we try and, make it more cost efficient by shooting the video, of course, at the same time, right? So we've had like, paddle boards or something we've done in the past as well. And that's an expensive product. First orders are hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars. So it makes sense to invest, $10,000 in getting great lifestyle pics by going to amazing beaches with like good looking models and just taking as many shots as possible.
Yeah.
The other thing, Danny, I want to say here is to jump in real fast is like, don't sleep on stock photos too, particularly something that's like generic, like sheets, or, to that nature. We've done shoots using exclusively only stock photos and then rolling things in there, and they can really work out well. You talk about saving some money. There's real opportunity there. I just didn't want to leave that unsaid.
Yeah, no worries. Anthony.
Yeah, I'd say that probably the biggest point about lifestyle that I can think of where a lot of people get it wrong is the context of what's actually happening in the shot. Because it's actually, a lot of people can take really good photos, right? We've got better cameras now than we've ever had, even just on our phone, and let alone if you have a professional shooting with the DSLR. I remember back in my agency days, we had one of our employees who was a photographer made a mistake, and they were shooting, it was like some kind of, storage bag, and they were supposed to show steak inside of the storage bag, and it had all of these seasonings. And the point of this is like the shot was beautiful, but inside of the bag with the steak, they put lemon, right? It was like one of the garnishes, which you would never do a steak. That would be like for salmon. And so even though obviously that's a bad example, but you have the most perfect looking shoot and it looked fantastic, the context just didn't make sense. And so I think that's like where you can really spend a lot of the time, especially if you're spending a lot of money on lifestyle to get a good ROI, is spend the most of your time in pre-planning and the shot list and think about, okay, there's something specific when people see these lifestyle images that's going to click in their brain, like, okay, this is going to serve my purpose. It's going to solve my problem. Let me go and add it to the cart. And the minute that there starts to be little inconsistencies, you'll be amazed with how quickly people's brains will pick up the thing that doesn't match or the thing about the setting that's not really related to the product. And when it doesn't feel off, it's not necessarily about how good the shot looks. Is it convincing them to make a buying decision? So yeah, that's what I'll say.
All right, let's bring in the professional photographer from his point of view. Let's talk about some of the most elaborate ones that you've done to lower budget, but obviously converted very well too. Backing up on what Anthony says, preparing shot lists and being pre-prepared, how important is that, etc.?
Lowering the budget. I'm always about trying to do it as budget friendly as possible. However, my approach, and this is what I'm telling my clients, like I hire models for my models and I rent $2 million plus locations for my photo shoots, right? Because I want to show very exquisite location and the product being portrayed. Because when you show a product in a very light upscale location, I think it plays out in a nice way. And I like to have, for my pictures, I like to have same model, same location from picture one. Well, not one because it's the main image, but from the second picture to the last picture, number 9, maybe even ABC, A+ content. I like to have same models because I like to create my pictures as a story, right? I want to have a continuity between, because when, and I would say you can use stock photos, but at one point when you see different locations and different models, it's a little bit of a disconnect between the pictures, and that's why.
Yeah, I was going to quickly say I agree with you there, but also some of the more sophisticated stock companies, they take the same model's got like 20 or 30 shots, you know, of that same model. So as long as they're going to be working for you, there are some different looks for those people. Obviously, there's the limitation, but there's more variety now than there ever been, I think, as well.
That's right. I mean, you have to take in consideration what product you're shooting, right? Because if you want to put something in someone's hand, and you know the hand is a little bit in a different position than it normally would be holding that product, then it wouldn't really work. So I think you are more limited when using stock photos, right? To make it look right.
Yeah, no, agreed. Let's quickly talk about the budget for shoots and stuff. Like you said, $2 million property that you're hiring. Walk us through, from your perspective, if you're setting up a shoot for lifestyle images, hiring the models, put some numbers to it. How much does a $2 million place cost? I know how long is a piece of string, because it could be New York versus, you know, I don't know, middle of America, where it's a lot cheaper to rent places. But give us some examples of putting a shoot together and the costs involved.
Yes. So I had a client who from New York, actually, who got a huge quote there for photography. He came to me, but he still wanted something top notch. So he was like, I want 2 actors. I want Hollywood. So I live in Sacramento. I drove 7 hours to LA. So we hired those 2 models, 2 actors. I think it was $3,000 for 8 hours. And then the location was $2,300 for 8 hours, right? So only those 2, you know, are making the budget for most people's the whole set of photography, right? And that excluded, you know, the traveling and my fee of, you know, as a photographer.
Post-production as well.
Exactly. So, I mean, it depends on how big you want to go, because this client was competing with multi-million-dollar brands and he wanted to stand out. He actually succeeded in standing out with that product because, you know, the bigger guys you want to fight, the more budget you have to have, right, to fight with them. Again, I could have I could have gone into, you know, a location in Sacramento. Wouldn't look as nice as the Hollywood, you know, all the view. We had a house top hill where we had a great view. We don't have those 2 models. The pictures would have turned out good, but not as good because, you know, the models are playing a big role into how nice the pictures are going to turn. Same with the location. So it depends. I mean, you can go cheap, you can go more expensive, depending on what do you want to achieve and who do you want to fight. Because if you want to fight a small guy, it doesn't make sense to invest as much in photography.
Have any of you guys optimized past the point, meaning you've spent money thinking I'm going to squeeze a bit more conversion rate out of this, but you've already reached the top, meaning it's like you weren't going to get any better, and you kept spending time investing into it only to get diminishing returns? Anthony, starting with you.
Yeah, I've definitely done it. I've been working on some accounts that have just had crazy high unit session percentages, like some in excess of 100%, like high business to business sales, and just really simple products. And so I had like taken a few stabs on going through, and some points of the optimization campaign work through, but like when you have a unit session percentage of like 80-90%, and like I didn't do that. These products were just, I mean, I came into that account at that spot, and they were just doing super well. And so when it came down to it, we were testing all these different things. And there was, again, like, I think once you get to that spot of when you're testing and you start to see very marginal gains, right? Or because unit session percentage, if you look on like daily metrics tracking, it's all over the place, right? So when you're looking for this improvement over a period of time, like I think sometimes there's a limit that you can get to, an upper limit in there.
Cool. Ash, you gone past the point? Because as I said, you do a lot of vigorous testing.
Yeah, I like to think about it. Remember Tiger Woods in 2000 when he was winning absolutely everything, and he had an incredible swing, and he was winning, but the guy was obsessed, right, with taking his swing to the next level, and then he basically overdid it, and then he lost his swing, he lost his groove. So I think when it comes to profile pics, we just need to be able to win on Amazon, and then once you're winning, that's good. Move on to the next one. I think, you know, if you actually change an image that you have for another image that you have, which is winning, I don't think it's going to have a big impact on your results. I think if someone comes in the market and beats your current image, then it would do, and that's when I would invest more. But I think there's so much to do that investing in trying to improve your already number one image is probably not the best ROI in my opinion.
Yeah. John?
Yeah, I mean, I think those are both well taken points. I would say if you have a winning image and you have a winning lifestyle images and your unit session rate's healthy, it's still good to periodically look at your competition every 3 to 6 months to see if messaging has changed or if you're really telling the appropriate story arc to maximize conversion rate. And sometimes it just takes a rest and you do not look at the thing for a while and then look at the competition to see if something needs to be done. But if it ain't broke, don't fix it is the general rule to follow.
Yeah, cool. Running order of images, we know what the main image is going to be, but starting with you, Anthony, that's always up for debate. You know, main image, do you come with a lifestyle? Which one comes next? What kind of story do you want to tell? What are some of the things that you've seen, Anthony, in terms of image order?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really tricky one, and it depends on, really depends on the product. I always try to think of it like, okay, main image is going to get basically 100% of view, and then there's going to be some kind of downward trend for who gets to the last image, obviously in the gallery. I'm going to try to fill up every image in the gallery, most likely. But with the expectation that there's going to be a lot of drop off by the end, I'm trying to prioritize and think about what are the most important points and what do I need to have first in my gallery. Sometimes the way that I'll do this is I'll look at the top 10 existing competitors and I'll classify what each of their image in their gallery is. So like image 2 is like a feature graphic, image 2 is like anatomy of the product, image 3 is compatibility with devices, whatever it might be. I'll go through and I'll see what the competitors are doing and I'll try to come up with like a weighted average. If I'm just entering a new market or it's like brand new, I'll be like, okay, this seems to be working in terms of image order if there's any kind of trends. Aside from that, I'm trying to actually go really based on a lot of the times keyword research to be like, okay, there's like certain search phrases that people are looking for and like the big ones that are getting a lot of volume that we're trying to target. I'm trying to see if we can rank for those. And so I'm trying to put those in like things related to that in the image, like 2-3 spot. And then, I personally get a little bit like, I don't want to say I don't care so much about the last image positions, but I'm really trying to focus on those first like 2-3 images to see if I can get people to click through and continue engaging with the gallery. The other thing that I'll say as well, I know I'm going on, but the other thing I'll say is that I think a lot of the times many sellers will put way too much information into their gallery, into each image rather. And so what happens there is if there's too much, people don't try to figure it out. They're just going to bounce. And so what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to keep like, what's that balance of how I can give them something that they can absorb in their brain in just a few seconds so that they will say, okay, I'm going to click, click, click. And every time they click to the new image, they get the purpose of that image.
Yeah, and especially if you're using too much text and then they're forgetting about mobile because they're sitting at the desktop actually deciding on how to lay out the images and when they're uploading. Yeah. Exactly. And then they get to mobile and you're like this, you need a pair of glasses and a magnifying glass to read it.
Yeah, I got to keep it quick. So,
John, any preference to orders? Any method in the madness for you guys at Thrasio?
No, I think messaging is important and precise copywriting, like Anthony just mentioned, is also very important. So for me, it's understanding your ecosystem. So if I have a product where it's somewhat generic, I like to claim that it's of high quality, but there's cheaper competitors. I might spend a lot of time in my early images talking about why you should only trust a high quality item like mine for whatever reason, as a way to get them to not bounce for a lower price. So it really, the story arc is super important and being precise is incredibly important.
Yeah. Ash?
Yep. So we maybe do a little bit different. So we try to, I think, second image off of the bat, I'm going to assume that people are busy. They don't want to actually go through all the images. So in the same way that we were saying earlier, that they may not even get to the last one. So I want to use the most powerful image that I can second. So we do like comparison tables, ours versus others. And we use that for multiple things. The main thing is to showcase the USPs of our product and why we're better than the competition. The other thing that it does as well is we can actually answer, negative reviews that the other competitors are getting. We can actually say, hey, we have double stitching, so our seams don't break. Competition seams break, for example. So I think that's a good one that we do for second. And then we also have like, we'll elaborate on the benefits a bit further in the third one to really state why people should go with us. And then after that, it's just a case of showing what's kind of, I guess, in the box, like what the specs are of the product, the details, the size, dimensions, the weight, making sure that we give people as much information as possible. We found that if you don't do that, people actually get it and say, hey, I thought it was going to be bigger than this, or I thought it was going to be smaller than this. So that's really important for mitigating negative reviews. And then finally, I think the lifestyles that we talked about, I think that's the thing that most people don't invest in on Amazon. So if we can do lifestyles which really showcase the product in a nice way, that really helps to, round it up and create the whole story.
Cool. Marius?
Yeah, when it comes to the order of the images, I'm actually not in charge, right? I deliver all the images. I can recommend my clients what order should they have the images in, right? But ultimately, if they choose to swap them, and sometimes, unfortunately, they do that and they drop conversion, because I like the second image. If it was up to me, the second image would be, again, a lifestyle showing emotion, showing someone using the product, at the same time featuring a feature featuring something that your product stands out, from the competition, like a benefit, a feature that you have and maybe they don't. And I want to show that in the second image. And again, for me, emotion sales, we justify with logic or when we buy something. So I want to show emotion in every single picture as much as I can. So as less text as possible, as Anthony said, I feel like one-liner should be enough. And if we can have one-liner in almost every image, obviously we need like a comparison chart, like Ash said earlier. I think that's super important. But I like to keep my text as minimal as possible. And I have some clients, like today's client, he almost doesn't want any text at all. He wants the images to speak for itself. And I said, yes, that's good, but you re-emphasize with the text what you meant in the picture. I think that's, if you can do that double, in a double way, I think that would be better.
Cool. Excellent. I think we pretty much covered everything. Has anyone got any final thoughts before we go?
I would say I have a few pointers for the main image. What I like to do, first of all, I like to show the product as large as possible, right? So when I photograph, I'm trying to photograph the product as low as possible from a low angle. Like in the movies, when you want to show someone that is in charge, you film from a lower angle. If you want to show someone that is not in power, you film from a top angle, right? Top down. So I like to not to distort the image, the product, but if you do it from a lower angle, the perspective will change a lot, and the product will actually appear way bigger than if you do the picture straightforward. I would also add the packaging. If you have a good looking packaging, right? Colorful packaging, something that will disrupt the pattern of all the other products out there, pictures out there. I would also, let's see, I had a few things right here. Again, depending on the niche, some niches are a little bit more lenient than other niches in regards to the TOS enforcement. In some niches, everyone will have at least, a lifestyle picture as the main image, because if you only have the product, people wouldn't understand what that product is, unless you're using on a person, right? So I wouldn't push it too much, but you should look at the competitors. If they have a lifestyle, I wouldn't go with just white background picture. Although if everyone has the pictures in a certain way, I would try to do exactly the opposite, right? Maybe everyone is pointing their product on the right, I was pointing towards the left, even though usually you want to point towards the right.
But this is a common theme. You see people, they'll look and see why are they in positions 1, 2, 3, and 4. And they go, well, my image does this, their image does that. And a lot of people would educate you to say you should copy it. But then what happens is, and me too, you've got all of these same products, all looking exactly the same in the top position. So there is no point of differentiation.
Yeah, I mean, I had a print screen at one point with the first page on Amazon. Every single one had their product identical.
Yeah.
And I did my thumbnail totally different way, and mine stand out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So.
Indeed. John, any final thoughts?
I'm going to go to copywriting here real quick. Just make sure you really focus on benefits and not necessarily features. So there's an example I always use from a brand that we bought a long time ago. It was a tea kettle, and it had an arrow to the tea kettle handle, and it said, "This is made out of DH92 steel."
Yeah.
And I asked my, like, well, what the hell does that actually mean? So, it got changed to something like, easy grip will never burn grandma. Something like that, right? It was like, all of a sudden there's a benefit you can actually have practical use and not necessarily a feature, because that's how people make decisions at the end of the day.
Yeah, and no one should burn grandma out there, kids.
Right.
Do not burn grandma. Ash, final thoughts?
Yeah, I think maybe we discussed a couple of the things already, like renders, I think work really well. It's a good way to do things for profile pics. As as someone said earlier, I think the job of the profile pic is to win the click. So you want to think about, how can you stand out from the crowd on the category page? And so, and you also got to factor in that there's optimization for desktop and mobile. And, we should be leaning towards optimization for mobile because that has a bigger impact on the size, and more shoppers are shopping on mobile and it's trending up. So I think that's important too. But, like the size of the image, reducing the white space, the symmetry, looks good. Like if you heard of the golden ratio, it's where you can actually have measurements of beauty, like anything in nature, like flowers, human face. There's actually like a golden ratio.
The symmetry, and the golden ratio is for men is 6.2 shoulder to hip ratio.
I have no idea what it is.
Yeah, it's called the Adonis. It's called the Adonis effect, but the golden ratio is 1.62 to waist. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's something you can recognize when you look at an image. Symmetry, contrast. Use different colors to bring stuff out. You can use branding. You can use packaging, and we covered PickFood, just an A/B testing. So,
Anthony, final thoughts?
I guess what I'll say is I think the biggest gains I've seen in main image optimizations actually has much less to do with changing elements in the main image to actually optimizing the packaging, like optimizing the branding. Just something that a lot of sellers really don't think about a lot of the times. Like especially if you're selling something that's inside of a bottle or something like that, you can make all these changes to your main image, but if you actually put some work into the packaging, that's probably going to be one of the more eye-catching things you can do. The other thing I'll say for main image is like just be going through your keyword data on a regular basis, because at different times of the year, like I've seen things that pop up a keyword that we weren't even thinking about, and then if it's something that's related to search volume that you can integrate, like for example, you're getting into Christmas and now your product serves a purpose through the other 9 months of the year, but now that you're getting into Christmas, it has a different purpose. Now you're kind of changing the main image for that season alone. Like that's weird. When you see things that are linked to actual data and you can make those optimizations, you're going to see bigger benefits. And then the last thing I'll say is for secondary images, and I think this was just kind of recapped on, but like having an image by itself without text, it might be the most beautiful image, but it really just goes to reinforce like what's the purpose of this image. And when everyone's shopping online, they're very distracted, right? They're not like engaged in your listing. They've got like the phone going off and the dog barking. And so anything you can do to reinforce, like you have your idea of what the purpose of an image is, anything you can do to reinforce that is good because it's going to help it click. And I would also say the thing that I like doing is called a 5-second test. So if I'm working on an image, I'll take that image and I'll show it to someone, like a secondary image. I'll show it to someone who has never seen the product. And I'll be like, what's the purpose of this image? And I'll actually time and give them 5 seconds. And it goes by really quick. And if they give you the image back and it's different from what you think, then very likely someone who's shopping is also going to mess that up. So just try to see if your images actually are concise and if they click right away. Because if they don't, they'll bounce.
Yeah. Just go to some of the comments here. Sharon says 5K on an image. Why would you spend 5K on the main? It's because you've got multiple images and need to choose one. Well, there's going to be the upgraded images over time, the testing on those, the hire of getting the photographers in, depending on how much you're going to spend. It could ratchet up to that on an image, I suppose. That's on a life cycle of 3 to 4 years if you've done it, if you've had the images redone 2 or 3 times. Adam says he's locked in. Sharon again mentioned that, there's a show 4 months ago, a photographer brief for your products. So check that out on one Sharon show. Then we've got Sadar here, says I like to add demographics into the pictures. And then he's also gone to say, as charming face is attractive and could sustain for a long time, that will rank organically. I'm not sure what you mean there, but I think what you mean is beauty sells. If you look at evolutional biology and psychology, symmetrical faces and stuff like that, people are going to react to that with the symmetry and attraction cues on both sides. It's just in our biology that goes back millions of years. Guys, thank you for joining us today. Any last bits before we want to go, or we pretty much covered? All done?
Just as John said at one point, when you purchase a drill, you don't buy a drill, you buy a hole in the wall, right? That's what we need to show people with the pictures. Yeah,
indeed. Marius, best way that people can get in contact with you?
amz.photography is my website. Yeah.
Excellent. John, do you give out do you give out details, or you just see people on the road with events?
Yeah, LinkedIn or Facebook, you guys can find.
LinkedIn and Facebook. Anthony, we've done a lot on Pick Food today, haven't we? And you don't even work there anymore.
Whatever works, right? Anthony.cofrancesco@datadive.tools. I think I got to shorten that.
Excellent. And Ash, I'm not sure you give out your details. Do you see people on the road as well?
No, I mean, people can feel free to add me on Instagram. My handle is Ashley10x.
Excellent. Well, all right, guys, thank you so much for giving up your time and attention today. I know you are very busy. Sharon will be back here in the chair tomorrow. I should be back here next week. Those guys who are heading out to Tallinn have just been added to the lineup in Estonia. I think, Ash, you're speaking there as well. So I'll see you next week in Estonia, and then the week after over for Augustus's event, in Portugal. Ash, are you living in Portugal still?
That's a complicated answer.
That's a complicated answer. Will you be in Portugal in and around the 9th? Okay,
cool. I won't be, no.
Anyone heading to either of those events?
I'll be there at both, Danny. I'll see you there.
Are you going to be at both?
Yeah.
Cool. All right, we'll hang up. But anyone listening to the show as well, make sure you come over, say hi. Be good to see you guys. I'm going to sign off now. Take care of yourself and your family. Much love, and I'll see you again soon.
See you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.